This is the Mindful Experiment Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Vic. Excited that you're here. This podcast is all about diving deep into the mind and understanding this experiment or this game we call life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What up, guys? This is Dr. Vic, and you're listening to another episode here on the Mindful Experiment. Excited to have you on. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while since a couple weeks since I've been on sharing and sharing some great stuff. We had some awesome interviews we've been playing catch up with this last month, actually 30 days, and I hope you've been enjoying them. We've been releasing like 2 to 3 a week. Just to get caught up. We took 3 weeks off in December for that reason. Life has been a fun journey for me. We just showcased and shared with the world how my wife's 21 weeks pregnant. Very excited for that. In process of also moving out of state. We moved to Tennessee in November. I officially moved there in December. And we're just getting acclimated to the new world, a new life, and everything else. And soon to be a whole new world again in just a short few months here. So it's been a lot of changing and a lot of moving parts, but that's just life. It's what you're supposed to do to a certain degree. There's always, what I mean by supposed to do is there's always a change and a move and so forth. And it's been a vision of ours for a while to move and start a whole new journey, a whole new experience, kind of pave our way. And so we're very excited for this 2022 and beyond, and just creating what we want to create for ourselves and for our life and for our family. So that being said, I'm excited to share this topic with you and just discuss this in depth because this is something that's been on my heart. It's a recording I just did on a Facebook group that I run for chiropractors. So if you're a chiropractor listening, check it out. It's called the Prosperous Chiropractor Club. And then also, if you're an entrepreneur but you want to listen to these, I also post these on my Dr. Vic Manzo page on Facebook. It's just Dr. Vic Manzo 1, the number 1. And you can listen to these lives. I do them a couple times a week. I do a workshop about once a week in my groups, and sometimes I'll record those and use those as a great podcast because I'm like, wow, that was really good material there, or I really liked what I shared. And so if you're hearing things like, put a like here, let me know if you listen to the replay or not. Know that just you're listening to the episode and the podcast of what I've done there. But this one is a lot about, I wrote this in my second book called The Walk in the Dark, and it was all about breaking down what really is suffering, right? Why suffer? Why do we suffer as humans? And a lot of times it's our own choice. Most of the research I've done, even my own life, I look and I go, why did I do that? Why was I creating that? And I know there's lessons or reasons behind it, but a lot of times we create our own suffering in some way, shape, or form. And it all comes and stems from resistance. Because what you resist is going to persist. And so if you have a fear of something, I used to say this, I don't know where this wisdom came from, but when I was younger in high school, actually probably just before high school in 7th and 8th grade, I always used to tell my mom and friends, like, if you worry about something, then that whatever you worry about is going to show up. I always used to say this, and I never understood why. It just resonated with me, and it sounded like absolute truth. So I'm like, this means truth somewhere. Later down my life, I figured out, holy cow, I was onto something. Because what you fear is what you're going to create. Right? A lot of times your fears don't really show up. Like certain fears aren't going to show up, but there's certain fears, like these ones that are hidden, like your fear of success or your fear of failure or your fear of not being worthy enough. These things will continue to create unless you break out of them. But one thing I learned about resistance in my journey when I was writing my second book about suffering, I also learned that resistance is the one thing that blocks us from creating what we desire. It's the one thing that it's the big roadblock to our dreams, and it doesn't allow us to break through. And so when I looked at, looking at this perspective and really diving deep into it, it really started to look at and make me realize that how resistance is a huge roadblock to not allowing the universe, God, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, flow to us. And so this is where I want to share with you guys this recording. That's why I put it on the podcast, because I thought it was such good information. I give you 2 tips of what you can do. And then, also if you're listening to this, if you're a chiro or an entrepreneur and you want to level up in your life, for those who aren't, I am working on putting together something in life coaching. It won't be for another 6 months to a year at least. It's something that I'm passionate about because I do get requests of people asking like, hey, what can I do to hire you for like life coaching in a sense. And I'm like, I don't do that at the moment, but keep inquiring because eventually they'll push me to get done faster. Because right now I'm working on my third book, actually. Just going to start writing it this week and start this journey. And I'm really excited to share this with you guys. I will be talking immensely about it on the podcast. But no further ado, I want to share this with you guys. But if you're an entrepreneur or a chiropractor and you like what I'm hearing and what I'm sharing in this episode, what I'm sharing here, hey, check out the show notes. DM me. Let's get connected. Let's have a conversation. I want to see where you are, where you're at, and maybe see how I can help. Before we get to today's episode, here is a word from today's sponsor.
Leadership, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starfleet Leadership Academy. Its ongoing mission to develop leaders through Star Trek, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. A Star Trek podcast told through the lens of leadership development. Subscribe today, the Starfleet Leadership Academy.
All right, guys, let's get back to the show. Here is the recording of All About Resistance and More. Hey everyone, Dr. Vic here. Excited to be here with y'all. Hope you had an amazing Valentine's Day yesterday. There's something that came into meditation with me today I thought was crucial that I share with you that can truly help break barriers in many different ways. I wrote about this in my book called The Walk in the Dark, and I talk about how this one thing is the cause of all suffering. Well, what's also interesting is this one thing is also the cause of what's blocking you from experiencing your dreams. It's what's blocking you from not allowing you to create the life that you desire. One thing we know for sure is we're spiritual alchemists. We are creators in our life. So we're always constantly creating. Whether you're aware of that or not aware of that, you are creating every single day of your life. And those accumulations of choices and things you have done from the past is what's led you to what you're experiencing today. So the thing I'm discussing, and if you followed me on my podcast before and so forth, I've mentioned this, but it's one of the things about the biggest roadblock to your dreams, and also the biggest reason why we suffer as humans is resistance. We resist what we desire, and you're going to persist. So whatever resist is going to persist. You're putting energy into the actual thing that you don't want. Sometimes that can be fear, that can be low self-esteem, that can be a low self-worth, that can be the fear of success just as much as the fear of failure. There's so many limited belief systems. A lot of things come into these realms that create this resistance, and you block and you say, nope, this is not what I want to do. Or you're trying to prevent something, right? The fear of failure. You're trying to prevent what may or may not happen, but you're in your mind, you've created that in some way, shape, or form. And so that resistance becomes a block for you, because you have to understand the universe is always giving to you. And if you don't like the word universe, God, Jesus, Yahweh, the label doesn't matter. There's always love pouring to you to support you, to co-create with you, to create the life that you desire. And if you're in the only way that it doesn't work out in our favor is we resist that. We block the energy that's flowing to us, and we shift it into other realms, and we put our focus into other things. So when we're doing this in our life, this is why we don't achieve the things that we desire. We're not creating it, or not creating in the time we want, right? Because energy is flowing. And when you're in alignment like this, everything just comes to you very quickly. And so, if you're listening to this and you like this so far, throw some likes in there for me, so I know that I'm hitting some vibes for you guys, whether it's the replay or live. And it's one of the things that, okay, so resistance is what blocks all things. Resistance is what creates all suffering. Well, then what the heck do I do to break that? How do I let go of that? Well, there's a lot of things. I can't share this all in one quick video for you, but what I can is give you some tips. And one of them is you got to learn to let go. Right. And understand that you really come to the root of what's the cause. Right. I was sharing some earlier. Is it a fear of failure? Is it a fear of success? Is it a fear of this? Is it a limited belief system? Do you have a low self-worth? And these things, if you want it just a little deeper into the subconscious mind, these are things from 0 to 7. And that's where it all stems. That's where that exists. That's where our brain was like a sponge in a theta brainwave state that we just absorbed all things and tried to make it seem that's what life was. And so then what we are really as adults are just wounds and issues of what we were as children. So looking from there and understanding and seeing what shows up, because the universe is always going to present to you what you need to work on, what you need to grow with, what you need to break through to get to those levels where you want to get to. That's all it's there to do. And it's doing it out of love, right? When you want strength and you ask for strength, the universe, God, and so forth is not going to just give you strength. They're going to give you circumstances and situations to help you find your inner strength and develop that. When you ask for confidence, it's going to be the exact same thing. You're not going to just be given it. The universe is going to provide for you in some way, shape, or form to do just that. It's always here. It's our best friend. It's there to support us in every step of this way. But we can be those blocks if we do not learn to just find out where it is. Because what happens with people when we don't do that kind of work first, you're doing things over and over and over again, always hitting a ceiling. You may break out of it, might find a new norm, but you never really explode. There's not this like big quantum leap. I'm talking massive shifts in your life, not only just from a financial standpoint, but business, life, relationships, health, so forth. It's just a huge explosion. And the reason why is because you're not holding back. You're not resisting. And when you have that energy flowing, things can quickly happen. So pay attention, give awareness to what are you seeing show up repetitively. Because when there's a repetition to this is science. When there's a repetition to something, then all of a sudden it develops a pattern. And when we have a pattern, now we got to start looking at why. Start asking the questions. Start doing some inner work. Spend time with yourself. This is stuff that you can massively do to create just that. And once you start to break these barriers and start to realize what it is and why, then we got to do the work. And this is where the work comes in. And when we do these kind of things, this is how all of a sudden we can get more with less. And what that means is that now you're starting to work smarter, not harder. Because before you had to do all this work to break the mold to get to a certain point. And now when you fix the little things, these resistant barriers that are holding you back, what's there not to stop you now? What's there not to create any other aspect of your life that you want to desire? Right? And so that's the key point I wanted to share with you guys today, is understanding that resistance is the number one factor of what causes all suffering, but it is also the biggest roadblock. So finding that. The second is letting go and trusting. Too many times humans, we went through this with COVID, there's too many times that humans do not like uncertainty. It's one thing we just don't enjoy. We like to have control, especially with the information era. I think that has built up more of a certainty aspect and an ego perspective that we need to know every step of the way or need to know how this could go and so forth. And it creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of issues because we can't control. One of the things is when your mind's focusing on the future, it's going to have anxiety, racing thoughts, anxiousness. These are some of the patterns. And so what we need to do then is say, okay, first we find what the root cause is. Number two, know that everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to, because when you know this truth, this code, that you are the creator and you are creating your life, co-creating with the universe, God, or Yahweh, whatever that label is for you. Now, all of a sudden, you're creating massive transformation in your life. There's nothing holding you back. And this is 2 steps that if you just do this work, I know it seems I take months to teach and process this with clients, but it's one of the things where if you just take these couple little things and really just tack in and spend some time with yourself here, massive changes. And so give me some love in the comments or say, I am worthy. If you know that you're worthy for your dreams and you're worthy of achieving those things, put that in the comments, throw some love and likes for that. And, but that's what I got for you today, guys. This was on my heart today. It was something that I felt I needed to share. So if this is the person that I'm supposed to share this with, I hope this really resonates and helps you in this process, but greatly appreciate you tuning in. And as always, talk to you guys next time. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you found this episode to be inspirational, pay it forward by sharing with someone that you know can benefit from this. If this is your first time tuning in, please follow us, connect with us so you don't miss another amazing episode. And until next time, keep rocking and rolling.